The 2024-25 Champions League is going to feature a brand new tournament format that will change the competition forever. Moving on from a 32-team group stage to a 36-team league phase has its fair share of positives, negatives, and general confusion among other things. The Champions League draw is normally a straightforward and easy to follow process that happens every year, but at this year's draw in Monaco, it felt as if everyone's efforts to be on the same page were to no avail. Today, I give you my very early and initial thoughts on what I think of this year's Champions League draw, as well as some of the matchups I'm looking forward to and some of the games that I'll be forgetting about. It's a new era of the Champions League, and it all starts with the draw. Before we get into the actual draw itself, I do have to give UEFA credit for the way they approach this event. I think that the organization understands that this new format isn't exactly the easiest to follow, and instead of trying to please everyone, they took an opportunity to poke some fun at themselves. If you missed the draw or haven't seen the mini film they showed before the proceedings, I definitely recommend giving it a watch. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into my thoughts on the draw. The draw looks very overwhelming at first, so let's go over each pot, starting with the teams in pot 1. Looking at the 9 teams in pot 1, I think it's safe to say that all of these teams will be making it to the round of 16. I would be very shocked to see any of them go out before the knockout playoff phase, and my initial reaction is that 5 of these teams will finish in the top 8, with the other 4 teams qualifying through the playoff round. In terms of the draw itself, I believe that Bayern Munich have the easiest draw of the 9 teams in pot 1. Playing PSG at home and Barcelona away might be the only challenge they face in their first 8 games, while the other 6 matches look very easy for the German giants. In terms of who has the hardest draw, that honor goes to PSG. Their first 4 games are all against very good teams, while also having to come up against PSV and Girona, who are more than capable of pulling off an upset. For the other teams, Real Madrid and Liverpool have the more exciting matchups in my opinion, while Barcelona and Manchester City's path to the knockouts is nothing too special. Overall, there are more than enough heavyweight clashes for the pot 1 teams, and it will be very interesting to see where they end up. But my initial thoughts on this pot are that each of the 9 teams will progress to the round of 16. In terms of the teams in pot 2, this might make for some of the best action we've seen in the Champions League this season. German title holders Bayer Leverkusen have a very interesting draw ahead of them, and I think it's a perfect challenge for them to prove just how good they really are. The other teams that caught my eye are Arsenal and AC Milan, who definitely have what it takes to make it to the knockout rounds, but could also be on the wrong end of an upset. I personally believe that Atletico Madrid have the toughest draw of these 9 teams, as their matches against Leipzig, PSG, and Leverkusen will be a real test. Apart from a massive test in terms of facing Real Madrid and Barcelona, Atalanta have a relatively easy draw, and if they play to their standards, they can easily make it to the knockout playoff. Overall, pot 2 teams will certainly be interesting to watch in this year's tournament. Moving on to pot 3, and this is where the cracks in this year's format really start to come to light. All of these 9 teams are great in their own right and more than capable of producing some magic on the pitch, but it just seems like these are the teams that will be fighting for a knockout playoff spot rather than for a spot in the top 8. I believe that Celtic have the easiest draw in pot 3, and while they won't win all of their matches, their only real test should come in their matches against Leipzig and Dortmund. On the other end of the spectrum, Salzburg really got the short end of the stick, and they are one of the teams who I think will finish in the bottom 12 this year. Overall, if 2 teams from this pot make it to the round of 16, I will be more than surprised. And finally, there isn't a whole lot to say about pot 4. I personally don't think any of these teams will make it to the round of 16, and even if somehow one of them does, that's most likely where their journey will end. None of these teams have any easy road ahead of them, but if I had to choose one, I'd say Aston Villa have the easiest 8 games ahead of them, but will almost certainly lose to Bayern, Leipzig, and Juventus. In terms of the toughest road ahead, Brest really have their work cut out for them, and my initial thought is that they will end up 36th and at the very bottom of this table. Alright, so there you have it, my very early and premature thoughts and feelings on this year's Champions League draw. The draw itself was certainly interesting to watch, but I definitely feel that the excitement of knowing which teams you'll be facing in the group stage and how the tournament will shape out has been replaced by confusion and angst. I can't wait for the Champions League to start on September 17th, but I really don't know what to expect, and only time will tell. The full schedule for this year's tournament will be released very soon, and once that comes out, I'll start working on a Champions League predictions video. UEFA has taken a massive gamble with this new format, so let's hope it works out. But what did you think of this year's Champions League draw? Did you love it, did you hate it, or were you simply confused the entire time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more football content, tier lists, and everything in between, and as always, I'll catch you next time.